All right, everybody, what's going on? G Funky Boxing is back. Make sure you like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know every time I go live. Share this on all your social media platforms as well. I'm being joined by some friends of mine today, literally some friends of mine, okay, that I've known these guys for 20 plus years. My man Jay Stu and Young Ice. What's going on, gentlemen?
What
In
up,
the
G
building.
Funky?
In the building.
Thanks for joining me, guys. I appreciate it. This is a special show, man. Um, Want to get the casuals perspective on boxing. There's a lot of people who say that we need more casuals in the sport, and we're gonna find out why some casuals, are casuals. you know. So,
Don't get
yeah, we'll
more
just
casual than this.
right. But it's all good, man. Hopefully I could pull some strings with you guys and get you guys on board and tune into boxing a little bit more. But let's start off with let me ask both of you guys this. And these are just gonna be random questions. I really have nothing prepared. This is the kind of show I wanted it to be. So I want to ask both of you guys, and whoever feels like answering first can go ahead. But what was the first fight that you remember watching?
Go ahead, J Stu.
Oh, that's easy. First of all, it was on a black box. You already know.
There you go.
You got to come correct with that. So that tells age. Um, Probably first and foremost, it's got to be the Tyson Holyfield. You know what I'm saying? We had it right with the Pizza Hut delivered,
Wow, there you go.
the stuffed crust on Grandpa's black box, and it was Tyson
Yeah.
Holyfield, numero one.
So that was, I believe, 96, the fall of 96,
Mm-hmm.
I believe. Actually, yeah, you know what? The anniversary just passed. I believe 26 years ago that fight took place. And yeah, I was a big Holyfield fan. So that was a happy day for me. What
I just thought it
about
was
you?
Lee. I thought it was Lee Woodall, linebacker.
Lee Woodall.
Not a gang represent.
Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. Ice, what's up with you, man? What's the first fight you remember watching?
Man, I think, man, that I really, really remember that was really enticing. I say Trinidad De La Hoya, man. Just
Mm,
that upset fight, man, was insane, right? De La
yeah.
Hoya coming in hot, Trinidad, up and rising. But yeah, all the, Latinos in one room back in the day, like my
Mm.
boy Jay Stu said on the black box. But yeah, I remember that fight very vividly. That's like, you know, a controversial fight at that. So, it sticks to you and it just created a lot of back and forth, which is the loving of the sport of boxing, man.
Hey, what year
Right.
was that? What year was that when
That
De
was
La Hoya first
September of
popped on
19
scene?
that was September of 1999 that fight
Yeah, that
took
sounds about
place.
right.
Yeah, I talk about that fight often here because to me that was one of the best promoted fights of all time.
Yeah.
Um, Now it didn't live up to the hype obviously, but the way it was promoted, it was a
Hmm.
big event.
But that's what
So
makes it right. The promotion, the
yes,
hype, the
exactly,
hysteria.
exactly.
I mean, talking about casual, I remember my mom, all her, and my aunties, and everybody was all in love with sweet face De La Hoya,
Right,
right?
right, right. And we got Andrew Charles is here. He says salute. My man Joe Lopez 40 ounces says the first fight he remembers watching is Chavez Camacho.
Damn.
That's a great fight too, man. Great fight. Um, that's one of my favorite fights. Again, that's a big rivalry in the sport of boxing, Mexico versus Puerto Rico.
Yep.
For me, the very first fight I remember watching was Ray Leonard versus Thomas Hearns, the rematch. I believe that was in 1989. I remember watching that with my dad. Had friends over, so just like you guys, it's one of those things where it was an event, so that makes you remember it more than anything, especially when you're young. My man Stefan is here as well. What's going on, guys? Um, all right, so here's the next question I want to ask both of you guys. I know if I asked you to name me 50 NFL players, 50 NBA players, you probably could do that right now within a matter of like
Name the
30
decade.
seconds,
Let's
you
go.
know?
Right.
Right. So I want to ask you this. Could you guys name 5 current champions in
Ooh.
boxing right now?
Oh, champions? Man.
Yes.
Nah.
uh, man. That's a damn good question. I mean, obviously, I think you could say is Canelo a champion? I don't even know if he's a champion, right? Is
He is
he
an
has a
undisputed champion right now. Yes.
yeah, okay. One of my favorites, Bud Crawford,
Yes,
Errol
champion.
Spence.
Champion.
Damn, after that, I mean, man, it's so sad that nowadays you can't even name the heavyweight champion. It's is it Tyson Fury? It has to
Tyson
be, right?
Fury is a champion. Yes,
Tyson
he
Fury.
is.
Oh,
That's
word?
four.
That's
I mean,
four right
I know
there.
Tyson Fury, but I didn't think he was a champion still.
Yeah, I mean, there ain't nobody beat him yet.
I guess.
Damn,
You got one
and
more in
that
you?
I think I'm out. I think that's like the champion. I'm trying to think.
25, but no, it's longer than that. So, yeah, 25, 30 years ago.
Is Danny
Man, that's
Garcia
all
a
he
champion?
was.
Right?
Danny
Heavyweight.
Garcia is currently not a champion. No,
Not a
not anymore.
champion?
No.
Man, I only got four within me, man.
Yeah, hey, but you know what? That's pretty good for a casual, man. How about you, Jay Stu? Can you give me five current champions right now?
Nah.
How many can you name for me right now, if any?
I would just be flat out cheating off of what he just said. So I would have 0.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you this. Since you brought up a few names, you brought up actually Ice, you brought them up. Canelo and Terrence Crawford. They were both undisputed. Well, Canelo is currently an undisputed champion at super middleweight. Crawford, a former undisputed champion at 140 pounds. So I'll ask you guys both this. How many belts do you need to be an undisputed champion in boxing?
I think you need 3, right?
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer. It's 3. It's WBO, WBC, and I don't know what the hell the other one is.
How about you, Jay Stu?
Man. I mean, we prefaced it with casual. I really don't even know. So I'm just going to say 2, just because he said 3.
Okay. You need 4. There is 4
Okay.
major belts now in boxing. If you want, some people like to include the lineal title, which is the Ring Magazine belt, which goes all the way back to the Jack Dempsey eras. It's got 100 years of history with it. Shout out to Doug Fisher, who I interviewed last Saturday night. We talked about that a little bit behind the scenes, but yes, there is the WBC, WBO, WBA, and IBF are the 4 major sanctioning bodies in boxing. And for me personally, I'll say this for myself. I think that having 4 major titles in each division, to me, is a problem with boxing. That's just my opinion, though. What do you guys think? Do you think that there's too many champions for each division in boxing?
I got a question, though.
Sure.
What does it mean by, like, 4 championship belts and 4 divisions?
No, it's per division. So
Per division.
in every weight class, you have 4 major titles, right? And if a fighter can collect all 4 of those titles, he is what's called the undisputed champion. That means, again, there's no disputing who the guy is in the division, you know? And like I said, here's another thing that confuses people is that there's the Ring Magazine, which is the lineal title, which again goes way back to going back to the Jack Dempsey days, you know? So that right there, you could say lineal over undisputed. I mean, it's an argument that hardcores have, but yes, you need 4 of the belts to become undisputed, man, which is crazy. So
Seems like a lot.
yeah, it's a lot of work too, man. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. See,
I'll
I
ask-
had thought that it was just like undisputed in the sense of like no one's beat you, no one's challenging you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could have some losses, but you could also become the undisputed champion by just collecting all the belts, like Bernard Hopkins. You guys know Hopkins, right? Remember him?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So Hopkins was an undisputed champion for a long time, had many defenses of his undisputed titles. But yeah, he had a loss on his record. He lost his very first fight, I believe, and then he lost to Roy Jones as well. So, but yeah, was the undisputed champion for a long time. I want to give a shout out to my man in the chat, Los Tres Chingones Boxing. What's going on? The GOAT is here as well. Guys, we're just here asking the casual fans here some questions about boxing. If you guys have any questions in the chat, go ahead and drop them in there, and we'll get it on. We're going to be here for about another 45 minutes or so, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. So I want to ask you guys another question about boxing. How many rounds for a non-title fight? Do you know?
Rounds for a non-title fight. 10?
Wow, you got it. There you go.
Yeah. I was gonna say 10 too. Yeah, 10, right?
Yeah, 12 rounds is usually for a championship belt, but
Yeah.
when it's a non-title fight, 10 rounders, man. Young fighters on the way up sometimes in the first, anywhere from 5 to 10 fights might be four rounders, 6 rounders, 8 rounders, something like that. But yeah, non-title fights are usually like 10 rounds. So let's see, guy. I got some more questions here. How many promoters in boxing can you name right now? Do you know any other promoters?
Don King? His son?
Hey.
Don King is still around. He is still
He's
promoting
still around,
cards,
right?
though. Yes. Anyone else?
You got Bob Arum.
Oh, yeah.
That's another one.
Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather, man.
Mayweather is a promoter. Yes, he is.
Oh, he crossed over.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you got De La Hoya too.
Golden Boy Promotions. There you go,
That's
man.
right. That's
Look
right.
at that.
Hey, good job.
Hey,
I like
you got
it.
Modelo. Hey, you got Modelo, man. Cerveza. King of Cerveza is always promoting those fights on the ring, man. Can we count them?
Tecate, Con carácter, Oh, I love that, man. So, all right. I want to ask you guys some other questions now. Not so much about like belts and rounds and promoters and things like that, but I want to ask you this. Both of you gentlemen are big NFL fans, big fans of the NBA, MLB. I don't know if you guys watch hockey or not. I don't think so.
Not really. I stick to the big three.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll ask you this. What is it about those sports that draws you to watch weekly or daily, depending on, the sport, obviously, compared to boxing? Why is it that boxing is not something that you would watch regularly?
I think for me, it's just the top guys fighting the top guys, man. It's always, I mean, I just want to see the top level fighting the top level, but at the same time, you can't just jump into it as a boxer. You got to work your way up and stuff like that. But I just feel like not enough, or it's too much parity, right? You can't. I want to see the top guys fight the top guys and stop ducking each other. That really makes me go away from boxing a lot.
Okay. And if you think of anything else, you can go ahead and add as well. But I'm going to pass it over to Jay. What what is your take on that?
Yeah, I think I hit on a point that all of us have subconsciously probably thought about, where boxing became transitioned to be a little more strategic, right? On padding your records, as I observed from a little far away, but also like I grew up playing baseball and basketball and football, so it's also familiarity, right? Not a lot of kids grow up boxing, such an individual sport, right? And it's a tough sport, and I respect it a lot, but it's not how many kids play little league, right? And neighborhood basketball and football, right? Compared to mom or dad taking you to a boxing gym. So there's a lot of familiarity. There's also a lot of money behind the advertisements of those other three sports, where it's not as well. Football is pretty violent, but it's not as violent. It's more of a family event, and not to say that boxing doesn't lend itself to being that as well. It's just I think it's more familiar. It's something that I grew up cheering for and understanding. Right, it's got like a fan base, whereas fighters come and go because it's an individual thing, but teams stay, right? So it's a team sport, and I think there's a lot to that. You have generations and highs and lows as a fan, right? And your team's still there, right? Your players get traded, retire, free agency, whatnot, but the team's still intact. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Got you. Got you. Give a shout out to my man Puerto Rican Rum in the chat. What's going on, man? One of my better subscribers there, and another one of my better subscribers, the GOAT. He says he wants to ask you both a question. Ask them, is Floyd the GOAT in their opinion?
Man.
Well, you guys go ahead and answer that whenever you like.
And I mean, damn, it's like I kind of relate this argument to like LeBron's Jordan argument, where do the stats by themselves automatically make you the GOAT? Because if that was the case, Floyd would be the GOAT, right? He undefeated, never lost. He might have ducked a few people in his prime, but who really doesn't in boxing? And every single big performance, he always stepped up to the plate and always delivered. So, I mean, how many undefeated boxers, champions ended their career at the top of, Mount Rushmore? I think you would have to, if he's not the GOAT, he's one of at least two or three GOATs for sure, in my opinion.
Okay. Jay, what about you?
I think my mind immediately went to qualify that, and it'd be like, well, greatest in what division, right? Because heavyweight, different skill sets, and all the other different divisions showcase different skill sets and different styles, right? So if you try to qualify it within, I don't even know which weight class Mayweather fought in primarily.
He fought in a lot of different divisions.
Yeah, that's why I said primarily,
yeah.
because I know they float, right? And fighting different guys. Personally, I don't like Floyd, so I'm already admitting a bias. I just thought he was too technical. And boxing is, at the end of the day, entertainment, and he might have been precision and or precise with that, that fighting style of just precision and over calculated. I don't like that. So I'm, again, inherent bias. I want to see action. I want to see somebody, you know what I mean, go for the kill, so to speak. That's what makes boxing fun and exciting for me. So to me, he's in there. He's trying to get points, and I get it. Boxing is strategic, and that's why it's an Olympic sport as well.
Gotcha.
So I'm gonna say no.
That's a very good take, man. My man, the GOAT, goes on to say boxing isn't promoted correctly. I remember seeing Oscar De La Hoya fight posters at local supermarkets when I was younger. I mean, it's definitely not promoted the same. And well, I'll ask you this then. As far as promotion goes, like, I don't even really know how to ask this question without it being too tricky. But like, promoting wise, like, do you feel like boxing does a good job of promoting to your eyes, the casual's eyes? Because I do my part because I follow the sport. So like, I get on the websites, I look all around to see when there's fights, who's fighting. But again, that's because I'm a hardcore, it's for the casual. They're not going to do that. So like, I'll ask you this, I guess. What platforms do you see boxing advertised to get you to watch a fight, or do you see that at all?
I think we gotta I think you gotta step back. I think that's a great question, and I think people like you, G Funky, need to. You guys do a great job in promoting it, but if you look back on it and you see all these boxing matches with the Paul brothers and all these basketball, football players, like, to be honest, they do a great job in promoting their fights and probably do a better job than actual real boxing matches in promoting their fights. So I've been seeing that. Like, I don't want to know about the Paul brother in a boxing match. That doesn't interest me whatsoever. But goddamn, right before all his fights, I see so much freaking promotion. It's not even funny. It like lands on whatever I'm looking at, whether it's TV, social media. So I think boxing definitely needs to do a better job, but promoting it more to the social media, more on social media. But I think with, like, to answer your question, I guess what the question is, what audience is boxing targeting right now? Like, what's the age group? Is it mostly males, some females? Like, how is it targeting it, and what are they doing to target that audience? Because I feel like all these other celebrity boxing matches, they're doing a great job, but I just feel like real boxing is not getting enough attention.
That's great stuff there, man. What about you, Jason? What do you think, man?
I would say with the UFC and the onset of its fame and all the different fighters and different style and excitement. I almost feel like they're canceling each other out, especially with the crossovers.
Mm.
Wasn't it Silva who just fought Jake Paul?
Yes, he did just fight
Right.
Jake Paul. Yeah,
Which is crazy, right?
a 47-year-old
Yeah.
Anderson Silva. Yeah,
Right.
He got
I mean,
he got knocked the fuck out, right?
I don't know. I know he lost. I don't know if it was a knockout though. I don't cover Jake Paul. Just like you said, it doesn't interest you. It doesn't interest me.
Me neither. I don't care about it.
Yeah, I just feel like I'll tell you this from someone like myself who covers a sport and tries to keep it alive, I guess, and try to get as many new eyes on the sport as possible. I feel like these guys who are coming into the sport, like you said, Ice, former NFL players, YouTube influencers, right? Getting in the ring. And look, if they're going to fight each other, like I personally don't have a problem with that. It's when guys like Paul, where he's really kind of like tiptoeing that line, right? He's not fighting professional boxers. He's fighting these retired MMA guys who really don't really know how to fight that well as far as boxing. Now Silva
stand-up
had
game is weak, right? They're more
Right.
on the ground. Yeah.
Right. I would say this, you put the best MMA guy who's great at the stand-up, the best guy at the stand-up, right? Doesn't stand a chance against a real boxer in a ring. It's just two different sports, So he's tiptoeing that line, and what could happen is if he does get ballsy and decide to fight a real fighter, he's gonna get hurt, man. He's gonna get hurt, and that's gonna hurt the sport more than anything. Because if people are like, see how dangerous this is, I'll never watch this again. Like, there's gonna be a lot of people that say things like that. Like they already say it now. People already.
Like
I've talked to it. Right, football's kind
Right.
of getting the same way.
Yeah.
So that's like if he's gonna fight, I say fight other guys like yourself, other influencers like yourself. Stick to that, because this is something that you could get hurt in pretty badly, especially if you don't know what the hell you're doing. It looks like Ice dropped off. Let me see if I can get
Hey,
him
we're gonna
back
see
in.
Jake Paul versus Rocky.
Oh shit! Yeah,
That's queued up next.
But I mean, one of the Paul brothers, they did fight Mayweather, and I mean, I watched it. It wasn't a bad showing, but like you're right, like they're straddling the fence of, because you're right. If they fight a real boxer and get their ass whipped, there goes their name. Nobody's gonna want to fight them again. So they're fighting a bunch of old age, retired guys to make themselves look good and stay up. Stay in social media, stay up to par. But at the same time, you can't really hate on him because he does, once again, a wonderful job promoting, as well as getting these guys that don't get paid well in the UFC biggest paycheck they've ever gotten. So it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I mean, I can't hate on anyone getting their money the way they get it.
No, you're right. I mean, hey, I am in no way in position to tell anyone how to earn. I'm just saying that, like, in the long run, it's not healthy for the sport. It's not helping the sport grow. That's what a lot of fellow content creators like myself here on YouTube were saying, that, well, the Paul brothers, they're going to bring eyes to the sport, new eyes. And it's like, well, that's not really happening.
I think they're making a spectacle out of it.
Yes, they're bringing attention to themselves, because their fans are there to see them fight, not the fighters that are on the undercard, because there's been quite a few that have actually fought on these guys' undercards, and quite frankly, it's done nothing for their status. Nothing. It's only gotten them more money, which is good for them. But again, at the same time, it's not growing stars in the sport, which is what we're missing in boxing. So I ask you guys this next question. When it comes to pay-per-view, okay, now we're living in an age where it's pretty easy. I mean, you're one click away from watching a fight without purchasing it. All right. But when was the last time you remember either going to someone's house that paid for a pay-per-view, or that you paid for yourself and a real boxing match, not an influencer or anything like that?
I can't even recall. I know it was UFC. I know it wasn't boxing.
What about you, Ice?
I think it had been, what was it? The Fury, what's the, oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank. Who did Fury fight? What was it? The
Was it
second
Wilder?
fight?
Deontay
Yeah,
Wilder?
Yeah,
Wilder.
Deontay Wilder.
Was it the
Okay.
second? They fought 3 times or twice?
They fought 3 times. And the second fight, I think you said, the second fight was in February of 2020, just before the
So
pandemic started.
yeah, so that was the last one. So Wilder Fury Part 2.
Got you. Damn.
Actually, I believe I watched that too, but I didn't pay for it.
Yeah. No, I didn't pay for it myself. I didn't steal it though. I went to someone's house, and when I go to someone's house, they order the fight, they invite me over. I'm giving them money. I'm bringing beer. I'm bringing something.
Yeah.
Oh, of
Um,
course.
yeah. But for the most
And
part, go ahead.
my boy Jay Stu slinging them black boxes still. I see 2022 black
Hey,
boxes.
with the bullet protection.
Man, golly.
Oh
No
man,
sir,
you guys are bringing back.
Comcast.
You guys are bringing back some great memories, man. I watched a lot of fights on the black box, that's for sure.
Yeah, I remember the pay-per-view channels were a little bit close to them no channels.
Oh. So, okay, I'll say this right now. Do you have a current fighter that you know of or a favorite right now?
Ooh, man, that's a good one. For me, it's that young man Benavidez. Nobody wants to fight him, and he's just a bad boy. I like his style. I like how he approaches the fight. He's an old school. I guess if you could consider old school boxer, for me it would be Benavidez for sure. But for me too, being Central American, I try to follow all the Central American fighters. So any of them, Chocolatito, that's my guy. So I try to follow anyone and everyone coming up from Central America, and anyone making the names for themselves when they're young. So, but for me, I love, I really like Benavidez. I mean, Earl Spence, Bud Crawford. I've been waiting for that fight for the last 5 years now.
Yeah, that fight's dead.
Yeah. So every time they say they're gonna fight, they don't. So I think, I mean, going back to your old question, I think that's what makes boxing fans fall off too, right? The hype of a fight, then it never happens, and it's all just rumors. It just
Mhm.
ruins your anticipation for it.
Yep. Jay, do you know any current fighters? And if you do,
Nah, man. I mean,
no.
I'm not even gonna try to pretend I really don't. But I did like what Isaac, Young Ice was talking about, and he was saying what is it? How do you phrase? I'm not sure how to say this, but just the perpetuation of no real action and momentum.
Mhm.
Right? It's like
Yeah.
I remember that Pacquiao and Mayweather, just drama, just like, okay, y'all the fight, nope, okay, nope, and it's like, you know what? We believe you. You're not going to fight. Moving on.
Yeah, that was a long drawn out what a lot of people said milking, right? They milked it to try to get as much money out of it as possible. Unfortunately, it turned into a dull fight because they were both out of their prime by the time it happened. And look, I know I just said that the Crawford Spence fight is dead, which I think it is. And if it does happen, Crawford will be way out of his prime. He's already 35 years old. Spence is, I believe, 31 or 32. So, they're rapidly approaching that point where they're coming out of their prime, and it's just not going to be the fight that it should have been. Unfortunately,
Man.
but I still want to ask you something, man. You brought up something
Yeah.
that made something click in my head. You said you follow the Central American fighters because you're from Central America. You mentioned Chocolatito, who is from your
My guy.
country, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you know when his next fight is and who he's fighting?
See, that's the sad part. I don't. I mean, he used to fight a lot more. I don't know when his next fight is. That's sad to say, man.
Hey, I just like his name. What was it one more time?
Chocolatito.
Hey, that's
Chocolate man.
That's a clean one, man.
Yeah, little
That's a
chocolate.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, he's one of the best fighters that's been around for the past at least 10 to 12 years. He's been under the radar with a lot of he fights in the smaller divisions, so a lot of people don't follow that. Like I often hear even hardcore say, "Well, I don't follow the little guys." I mean, but those are some of the best fights you could see. You know, those guys are all action.
Quick hands.
But yes, JJ's in the chat saying he's fighting Juan
Estrada.
Francisco Estrada in December. Yes, he
Oh,
is
it's
in
coming
San
up.
Diego. In San Diego, California, actually, is where the fight's
Oh,
going to happen.
what?
Yep. So that's
Might have
going
to
to
make
be
Kind of
that trip.
local.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
going
might
to
have
be
to
the
make that trip.
that's going to be the trilogy, man. Yeah, I'm sure you could get down there and
Oh,
get some
okay, yeah.
tickets. Yeah, I know somebody
There you
who's
go.
already got their tickets for that fight. So
Wait,
Yeah,
where
I
do
wish
you
I-
fight in San Diego?
they fight at the Pachanga Arena in
The
San
hell is
Diego.
that?
The
I'm
casino.
not cool.
That's a casino.
I think it might be, yeah, but I'm not 100%
Of course, that guy
sure.
knows.
JJ in the chat is saying that Chocolatito is an all-time great. He absolutely is.
He really is.
He absolutely is.
Man, the
So I ask
promotion
you
on that
this,
name.
man. Since
Right.
you got some familia there still in Nicaragua, Ice,
Yeah.
do they advertise Chocolatito's fights there pretty good or what? Do you know of that or what?
That's funny because I was thinking about that. Every time he fights, I'm like, damn, how does Central Americans watch the fight? So I don't really know. I think they would have to stream it one way or another, but probably illegally. But they definitely do watch it, especially in the capital of Managua. They definitely have watch parties and stuff like that. But I mean, it all depends. Like probably for the little small poor cities and stuff like that, definitely not. But the larger capital cities, they definitely do.
Well, time zone
Mm.
too, though, right? If it's like,
Yeah,
for example,
exactly.
San Diego, like what I don't know what time that is in
3
Nicaragua,
hours.
but
Yeah.
Well, that's a damn good question. I'm not quite sure if it's Pacific time like us.
No, it's 3 hour. It's 3 hour difference. It's the same time.
Oh, that's it?
Time zone as same time zone as Houston.
oh, that's not so bad. then.
Oh, okay. Actually, I think that's 2 hours in. That's 2 hour
Oh, 2
difference.
hours,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if the show
not bad.
starts here at 5, it would be 7 p.m. Over there, which is not so bad because the fight's going to be on DAZN. They usually start their cards around 5 in the afternoon. Main event probably starting around 8, which would probably be 10 p.m. there. But yeah, I've always wondered about that, how they advertise and how do people see fights there? Because I hear so much from people about these international markets and things like that, but I'm like, man, I find it hard for a lot of these guys who come from these countries like that.
Yeah.
How do they see it? What network is broadcasting the event and all that type of stuff?
ESPN 8 Deportes.
Ah, that's right. That's right.
ESPN 8. God damn, we're on 8 now.
Yeah, they have quite a few. They have quite a few now. There's ESPN Plus, which is an app where I've purchased because they show a lot of fights.
They stopped counting. They just said plus after 8.
Right. No, it's they're crossing over to apps like DAZN is an app as well.
Right.
Where here in the United States they advertise a lot of Matchroom cards from overseas, and also a lot of Golden Boy cards are on DAZN, and I feel like they're really carrying the U.S. market, Golden Boy, for DAZN here in the United States. What's going on to Boxing Vitals in the chat, and my guy Dave from the 408 at the Shoe Shine Boxing. What's going on, gentlemen? I'm just here chopping it up, man, with some of my friends who are casual boxing fans, asking them questions. If you guys have any questions you would like to ask a casual, put it in the chat, man, and we'll get it to them.
I want to add to something
sure.
you were talking about.
Go ahead.
And it's a draw from my viewership and fanship of Major League Baseball, and they call it the the East Coast bias, and I think has a lot to do with some of these fights too, and lack of coverage. Because as a writer on the East Coast, I mean, how late do you got to stay up to watch a Giants Dodgers game, right?
10 o'clock, yeah.
No, later than that on the East Coast. It's ending at 10 o'clock.
1.
That's 1 a.m.
But they start at 10, right? Because the games usually start here at 7, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I mean, just think about how long of a day that is. And,
right.
I mean, technically, continuing to the next day, right? So that's why in baseball they have that East Coast bias because the lack of viewership and attention these West Coast teams get
Yeah, that's
based
true.
based on schedule, right? Alone.
No,
So I think
that's
that's
a
a
great
factor as
point.
well.
Yeah, that's a great point. I know a lot of the guys that I've done work with here that are on the East Coast, they stay up late, man, and like fucking main events, walking out to the ring, it's like 11, sometimes midnight over in New York, some of these cards. They go over some comments here. Boxing Vital says Jalisco time is 2-hour difference from us. He says he's got family in that area. My man Javier is here. He says there's a channel called Space, I think. And I've watched a lot of boxing when on vacations in Guatemala. Okay. Well, that's good to know if I'm ever in the area. And I got to watch my fights, man, wherever I'm at. So, but thank God for the internet. I always have my my apps to rely on in case I can't find like a TV to watch it on.
Yeah, I feel you on that though, because I remember being in Hawaii and it's like, hey, the 49er game's on at 7 a.m.
Right. That's crazy,
Set my
huh?
alarm.
Yeah. I remember watching when I was there as well, watching some sports events, and it's like, wow, it's on super earlier
Right.
than normal. I'm kind of getting used to it myself now, though, because like I said, the DAZN app, they carry a lot of UK fights. So those cards, they start at like 11 a.m. here on the West Coast, and they're ending like around anywhere from like 3 to 3:30, depending on if the fight goes a distance or not. But
Right.
yeah, that's a good point though about the times and everything like that. So yeah, I want to ask you this, Jay. You kind of hit on something earlier where you said you respect Floyd, but he wasn't entertaining, right? I'm paraphrasing. So what kind of boxing does draw your eyes, or boxers, I should say, type of style?
Yeah, I think the aggressive, fighters, where they're in
Mm-hmm.
it, and like you just like some of those real lightweight, flyweight guys, where they're just in there just throwing hands, just nonstop action, hands, not just trying to pick their spots and score points with the judges. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that was Floyd.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you this. If there's a fight that you want to watch and it's coming up real soon, it's the fight that we were talking about with Chocolatito versus El Gallo Estrada coming up in December. Both the first two fights were great fights, a lot of punches, a lot of action. So if there was a fight for you to watch, that would be one right there. Ice, what about you, man? What style do you prefer, or do you prefer a style at all?
I really don't prefer style. I mean, I don't really want it to be just a defensive exhibition. I just remember watching Winky Wright's fights back in the day, man. Those be dead boring. I mean, there was no way you would get any action in that fight. So it's like definitely not just a defensive matchup, but yeah, man, a lot of punches, a lot of combos, a lot of action. People coming forward, meeting in the middle. I mean, who doesn't like those type of things? But I appreciate the technicality in boxing, the rhythm, and all the things that go into it as well. So just action, man. And I think that's kind of why back in the day the heavyweights were the prime ticket, man, because there was no hiding in that ring with the heavyweights. You'd have to go in the middle and fight. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I do remember a couple fights though. It was like, man, this fool's gonna hug the whole time.
Yeah, we get that. We get that sometimes. Styles
Yeah,
make fights, man. So
right. But at the same time, I
unfortunately,
don't want to. I don't want to see no Peter McNeely, Mike Tyson shit.
right, like a 1 minute fight.
Right.
My man Shoeshine here, he has a question for you, gentlemen. He says his question for you is, what is the magic number / price tag to entice a pay-per-view purchase? Currently, pay-per-view is around anywhere from 70 to 80 bucks. So
Yeah.
he's asking what price, if they were to change the price, what price would help you to purchase pay-per-view fights in the future?
I think for me it'd be $49.99. $50 is a good
That's
right
literally
around
my
price.
thought.
Yeah.
$50,
Like,
yeah.
man, yeah, $50 to get you in the
Yeah.
door, right? But I mean, yeah, now like you said, 70, $80. It's just
Wait,
a little
wasn't the
too much. I mean,
Floyd 100?
That fight was
The
100.
Pacquiao?
Yes,
Wow.
yes, it
Oh
was.
yeah, I remember that. I was
That's
like,
insane.
oh, we're crossing that barrier now, huh?
Well, that's that. I really thought that was going to be a trend, but it turned out it wasn't. Thank God.
Yeah, I
We're
agree.
getting closer though, because there's some pay-per-views that are like $80. But the reason why I thought that was going to happen was because back when Tyson was the guy, right, the late
Mhm.
80s, early 90s, and then he went to prison for a few years. He was such a ticket seller and sold pay-per-views like crazy that when he came back to fight, like you said, Jay, Peter McNeely, right? That was his first fight out of
Mhm.
prison. That fight doesn't even go a full round. And at the time, pay-per-view was, and I could be wrong, but I remember it being about $24.99 before, right? Tyson
Really?
gets out.
I mean,
Don King promotes his return, right? That thing goes up to $40, right? And because he knew Tyson was must see TV, he knew that people would say, I don't give a damn, it's $40. I'm gonna buy it because it's Mike Tyson, Um, that's why I thought that we were gonna get that more of the $100 stuff,
right.
but thank God we didn't,
Yeah, I mean that makes
Um,
sense. Although I'm just again, I don't even know what the prices were because the black box was just so money, literally, pun intended.
Yeah, I remember what the prices were because I remember my dad would purchase a lot of pay-per-views, not just boxing, but pro wrestling as well. And they
Oh
were the
yeah,
same price. They were the same
okay.
price on pay-per-view. My man Shoeshine says that his wife says that he's cheap because his answer was $19.99.
I feel like Ice hit it though, 49.
I think that's a great price too. $50. Yeah. I would pay for a lot of pay-per-view for $50, man.
Because the reality is, most people aren't paying for the undercard fights.
No, you
Main
know what?
event.
You're right. You're right. Although there have
That's
been
when they're
some
eating and
promoters,
drinking, right?
yeah, and some promoters have been trying to stack undercards, but most of the old school promoters like a Don King, although Don King did have a lot of stacked cards, um, and Bob Arum has been quoted as also saying like, these guys, they don't pay for the undercard, they play for their main event, and he's 90 something years old, so he's been in the game for a long time. Joe Lopez says $100 with only 2 fights on the undercard. Right, that was a bad pay-per-view, man. But look, they sold 4 million they had 4 million buys for that pay-per-view, Pacquiao and Mayweather.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
they
the
made a
people who
ton.
bought it obviously had a living room full.
Yeah, well, you guys remember my house? I had
Throw
people
10 on it.
had people in the living room. I had people in the garage. Matter of fact, I remember we used your projector in my garage. We had the
Yeah.
fight on the whole wall. Like
Yeah.
it was an event. It was an event. Let's see here. There's another comment. Box Mouse says, G Funky, back in the day, people used to get together for Tyson, Chavez, De La Hoya
Yep.
fights. Now nobody does that. You were able to pitch in and not feel it in the pocket. Absolutely.
Precisely.
Man, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yep. And I agree 100% with what Boxing Vitals is saying. And you guys know I've thrown a lot of fight parties, I've done a lot of them. And, people, I like that. I like to be generous, but when I go places, I chip in, man. When people pay for a pay-per-view, I don't have an issue with that. But yeah, those were good times, man. You don't really see that too often. And I really think the problem is because there's not a lot of marquee matchups where people want to get together.
Well,
I
that and
think that's
COVID.
that too. Yeah, that too. Like 2020, there was one pay-per-view, I think, that year or two, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it's like the asterisk, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was Fury Wilder was 2020 February, but that was before the shutdown.
Right. Right. Just
There was a
before.
pay-per-view in the bubble with both Charlo brothers fought, and that was a long card. That actually was worth the money, I'll be honest with you. Even though some of the fights weren't that good, but there was like 8 fights on that card. Including multiple championship fights. Who was it? Tank Davis fought Santa Cruz in a limited audience at the Alamo Dome, I believe. Canelo fought as well, but that wasn't a pay-per-view. It was on DAZN, unless it was a DAZN pay-per-view. I can't remember, but those are like the major events of 2020. But
See,
again, go ahead,
that
go ahead.
that like when you talk about like the undercard, my mind draws a parallel to like minor league baseball. Like, yeah, I know these guys are gonna be the future, but I'm a Giants fan. I'm just thinking, I really don't care that much about minor league. I just can't get hyped for it. I just can't.
River Cats, you know?
just can't do it, man. And I know, you know, what I mean, these guys are going up and down in the future, and I'll see them soon, right?
Mm-hmm.
But take me to the main event, man.
Yeah, that's what people pay for is the main event. That's the old school way. Like I said, guys like Bob Arum who have been promoting fights since I believe the 70s. That's one of the things that he's been quoted as saying is that people don't pay for the undercard. They're paying for the marquee, you know, the feature of the evening. JJ said I never saw the card, but I remember my gym had an awesome looking poster of Lennox Lewis, Chavez, and Julian Jackson on the same card of a Don King promotion. Don King did have some stacked cards back in the day, but what he would mostly do is he would feature guys that were coming up. Like when Tyson was the big ticket seller, he would feature Chavez as the co-main event, right? And he was making a name for himself with the Mexican fans. And then he became, once Tyson went to prison, then Chavez became his own pay-per-view star. He was the main event. And then on Chavez's pay-per-views, he would feature a young Felix Trinidad on those undercards. We fought a lot of guys like Yori Boy Campos, Hector Macho Camacho on those undercards.
Trinidad.
So you had a way of
man.
you had a way of promoting, man. Those guys knew what the fuck they were doing, you know? A lot of these guys, these promoters today, they just don't know how to promote and get the more casuals or more just draw more fans, period. You know? So I
Who'd
actually
ever thought who'd ever thought we'd be thanking Don King for all those great fights back in the day? Man.
Hey, didn't Lennox Lewis fight Holyfield?
he did fight Holyfield.
Yeah, I think
believe
I
that was
remember.
98 was when he fought him for the first time, I believe. That was a draw, controversial fight.
Right, I remember thinking, wait, Lennox Lewis is British?
Yes,
At the end,
Right.
at the end of that fight as a kid.
Yeah, Lennox has got a weird lineage. Like he fought for Canada in the Olympics, right? But I believe he was born in England and he's Jamaican descent. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one of those things, man, with Lennox. But yeah, Lennox is an all-time great fighter, no doubt about it. One of
Oh,
the
for
best
sure. I just
heavyweight
remember being a
champions.
kid and
Mhm.
seeing that fight. And then at the end, I was like, wait, this dude's British?
That's when he had hair, right? Man,
Yeah,
baldy
yeah.
now.
Yeah, he cut it all off now. Yeah.
He had like the little braids or something like that back in the day.
Oh, yeah, the long
Yes, he
braids,
did.
yeah.
I think he had.
Yeah.
I think he had dreads. Boxer says all I can say is that Al Heyman basically killed the mojo of boxing because he puts nothing but garbage undercards, and sometimes his main events are garbage too. Well, I would say recently all of his main events have been garbage. I mean, look, the last PBC pay per view we had was Wilder versus Hellenius. That fight doesn't even go around. It doesn't even go one round, and they make people pay almost $80 for it, man. Like that's. To me, that's bad. That's not good for boxing. It's good for the fighters, but it's not good for the sport, you know? And I'll ask you guys this here. We got 8 minutes left, and then we're going to cut this thing. What do you think boxing has to do to better promote itself? Because you guys talked about the Jake Pauls of the world and all these other guys doing a great job of promoting. What do you think boxing has to do to get back to where it was in the Tyson days and the De La Hoya days and stuff like that?
I think they have to. I think they one way or another they have to force the elite champions to fight other elite champions, whether it's contractually agreement, whatever the case may be, that they have to fight each other. Like you can't. No longer ducking people should be acceptable in boxing, and that would create bigger main events, way better undercard fights for those young guys coming up wanting to get a spot at the top as well. But I just think, man, people stop ducking each other, man. Just go out there and fight. You lose, you win. I know everyone wants to protect the record, but at least you're seeing the top of the top before, like you said earlier, with with Crawford and Spence before they reach 30, 35, where now it's not really a great fight as it could be.
Yeah, that's going to take away from it for sure. Jay, what do you think, man?
I mean, picking up off what he's saying is you're adding structure, formality
Mhm.
to it, right? Just like some of those other sports, like the NBA, it's going to be 82 game season with X amount of rounds and playoffs, ultimate to the championship, right? Now, in this sense, it might be more like a bracket, but there would be some formality and structure, a path forward where people can look forward and knowing that, now I know it's got to be longer, right? Because it's boxing, you got to have train and heal and whatnot, but bring some formality to it. I mean, there's a lot of smart people, and I'm sure they can figure out a way to make it more structured so it's easily followed and brings a finality to it, right? Like he's saying, you avoid those
I mean,
ducking.
you look at UFC. Some guys fight 3 to 4 times in a year, and they fight all the top champions. Like there's in UFC, you cannot duck anyone, and it's been working for UFC. I don't look at the numbers or the following, but it's working for them, right? Their main events are stacked, so that is set up to succeed there. So something like that, or maybe even what was the tournament they used to have back in the day? It was like 8 straight. What was it? I forget what channel it was on, but it used to be like the 8 main boxers in welterweight. They used to all go at it in kind of a bracket style. That was
Mhm.
pretty dope. If they bring something like that, that'd bring a lot more attention back.
Or like
Tournaments definitely would be nice. Go ahead.
That'd
the
be
All Valley tournament, Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai.
Oh yes, yes. Now there was some tournaments back in the day. They
Yeah,
had the World Series of Boxing, I think, and then the winner got the Muhammad Ali Trophy. There was some um, tournaments that ended with unification bouts, which was good. A guy
yeah,
from our
man.
area, Andre Ward, who was really a dark
There you
horse in
go.
the Super Six tournament at super middleweight back in the day, ended up
That's
winning
what it
that
was. The
thing.
Super Six. Yeah,
Yeah,
there you
and that
go.
was good, man. I enjoyed all those fights. Some guys, pulled out due to injuries or whatnot. But we did get some good fights out of that. And Andre Ward again was a dark horse, man. I did not expect him to win that tournament at all. I knew some guys in the gyms here in Sacramento who was offered an Andre Ward fight early in his career. Um, but we were hearing a lot of rumblings from the gyms, man, that he was, maybe not all that he was cracked up to be, but he stepped it up, man, when he needed to, and won that tournament. So my last question here before we wrap it up, guys. I want to ask you guys now. I asked you if you knew current champions when we first started. Now I want you to name or try to name at least 5 superstars from the sport of boxing. Doesn't matter what era, what year, anytime. Just give me 5 right now if you can.
I mean, ones that I recall are Trinidad, Tyson, Holyfield, De La Hoya. Was that 4?
That's 4. Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't keeping track. I mean, of course, Mayweather, Pacquiao.
6. Yeah. Keep going. If you want to, it's up to you.
Yeah, that's good enough.
Hey, you got more than I asked for. That's good. Ice, what about you, man? Let me hear some
Yeah,
great
man.
names of the past. Any era doesn't matter.
Hey, we got to start at the top, man. My boy Alexis Arguello,
Woo,
the
yeah.
goat, right there, baby. Sugar Ray Leonard,
Sugar Ray.
um, Roberto Nomas Duran.
Mm.
You said Hearns earlier. Yeah, Hearns. I gotta go Hearns. Let's see. Who else? I mean, Tyson, obviously.
Joe
Holyfield.
Louis.
Joe Louis,
Oh, there
yes.
you go, Joe Louis. What is it? I've never seen him fight Rocky Marciano, right? One of the undefeated fighters of all time.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
You
Yeah,
just can't
that's
say
5. Huh?
Ali. It's too obvious.
Yeah, you're
Ali.
right.
No, you can throw Ali in there, man. The
I
the
just thought it was
greatest
such a layup.
the greatest of all time, man. Ali.
Hey,
I actually
don't forget
shared
my
his
boy Foreman Grill. My boy George Foreman Grill, right
George
there,
Foreman.
baby.
Yeah. Yeah. No, those are all big names, man. And look, right now, I don't know if this era ended, I don't know what name would really stand out amongst those type of guys. It'd be tough, man. It'd be tough, but we'll see what happens, man. I'm hoping for the best, and the reason why I asked you gentlemen to come on and again because I really want to see what you guys are, what catches your eyes to the sport and what doesn't catch your eyes to the sport, and things like that, because boxing does need some help, man. It does. The promoting really sucks these days, and the sad part is that there's more promoters now than there's ever been, and there's more ways of promoting than there's ever been with the internet and social media and stuff like that. But these guys are just dropping the ball, man, and they got to get on with it. So yeah. So gentlemen, I want to thank you for your time. We'll have to do this again in the near future. Hopefully I'll have some guys come on with me and they could ask some other questions as well. I want to thank everybody who watched this live in the chat. All you guys, don't forget to hit the like button if you haven't done that. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. If you want to follow me on any of my social medias, they're right up there in the top. You see the Instagram, you see the Twitter. If you want to support the channel over there, the Cash App, and right here, actually, no, right there. Subscribe. That's the most important thing you can do, and like.
It's free. It's free, man. Subscribing
free.
and free. It's free, man. Don't cost you a dime, brother.
That's right. I'm at round one here in the chat. Says, good night, everyone. Got to be up early for work. Hit the like button for our boy G Funky. That's right, man. I appreciate you. And that's it for this one, guys. My buddies here, they got things to do. They got families and stuff. And I appreciate you guys taking the time out to come on here and talk some boxing with me, man. I appreciate it. So,
hey, G Funky, next time just tell everyone to jab that like button, baby. Jab that like button.
Smash that subscribe button.
that too. So, all right, guys, I appreciate the time, and all you guys watching. Have a good night. We'll see you guys on the next one. We are out of here. Peace.
Deuce.